Kia ora and welcome back to Breakfast. It is 7:15. A number of social service charities that provide frontline support services for oranga tamariki have not been told if their contracts will be extended beyond the end of the current period. That would be this Sunday. And these are frontline services, family violence, sexual violence, crisis support, children in care and many more. On Monday, around 130 services met to discuss their concerns, convened by social service providers Aotearoa. Chief Executive Belinda Himiona joins me now. Morena, Belinda, thank you for being with us. What were the concerns? What were people talking about at Monday's meeting?
Yeah, sure. There's a high degree of uncertainty in the sector right now about the contracting that you've mentioned, and just not knowing what will be happening beyond Sunday. And we're not clear what services are likely to continue at this stage.
So I also know that some of those services who no doubt were in that hui on Monday, they're afraid to speak out because they're afraid that their funding may not continue, right? So tell me about some of those organisations. They're big ones and some smaller ones as well, and the services that they provide.
Yeah, sure. So we do represent most of the delivery in the social sector. So you've covered many of them. This is family violence, sexual violence, social work services, parenting programs, residential care for kids, youth justice, kids with high and complex needs. So there's a really broad range of contracts that are currently under review. And, you know, things may change, but what we're hearing from the sector, which is creating the uncertainty, is that the demand for those services has remained, and we're not clear what will happen if those services don't continue beyond the contracting period.
So is this unusual? I mean, here you are, you've got services that won't have any funding from Sunday. Are they still going to be available on Monday?
Yeah, so we're in a bit of a holding pattern, and this is why I use the word uncertainty rather than removal of those services. So it's normal to be in a conversation with oranga tamariki and other providers, government agencies, funding agencies about, the fine-tuning of a contract. It is very unusual at this stage of the contracting round to still not actually know if your service is likely to continue, and you can just imagine the impact on staff. These organisations are very committed to their communities, their community-based services, so they see the need around them from children and families, and are really, really concerned about what will happen next.
Belinda, my understanding is that there was a hui that was held with oranga tamariki, am I right? And not much came out of that?
Yeah, we're really constructively working with oranga tamariki, and they're trying to work through a number of scenarios here. So I think we work with great people, and they're also wanting to do the best. I think the situation, though, is that we need more partnership with oranga tamariki to understand what the plan is, and mostly to wrap around and make sure that children and families aren't left hanging. All of these services at the moment have got kids and families in them, as far as we're aware, and that is we're just not sure what will go forward. We also know that oranga tamariki was part of the public sector cuts. They had to find 6.5% from their budgets. They also talked about at the Select Committee last week, Chapi Tikani, the CE, about $30 million that was cut from the budget, but they were talking about that money which was not spent on contracted providers who failed to deliver some services. It's taken them 6 months to get that piece of work sorted, and now they're looking at who they're going to contract. We had a statement from oranga tamariki from Darren Himiona, who is the Māori Partnerships and Communities. First part doesn't say anything. They followed up that statement, Belinda, with all providers whose contracts expire this week will receive a full week extension to enable us to conclude our negotiations. I'm sure that's news to you, but how do you receive that news? Yeah, no, thank you for that. It's just a lot of uncertainty. A week, you've got staff and you've got kids and families in those services. It's not a lot of notice, to be honest, and we would expect much more pre-discussion if services aren't being delivered or if demand has shifted. Then that's really a good conversation to have to get to the right wraparound for kids and families together. and I think the timing is very, very close to the wire, and I can only imagine what it's like within those services. They're really expert, committed people, and they're trying to do their best, and this is really very, very close to the 1st of July now.
Yeah, and thinking of those people who are in those services, but also the families who rely on the services that they provide for those kids. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Belinda Himiona, who is the CEO of Social Service Providers Aotearoa. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
20 minutes